going to have a conversation. We're going to learn, we're going to hear what Dina and Ian have been up to in Coalville and hear a little bit about their community share offer. And the plan, that is basically the first experiment. This will be this first Citizen Spotlight call, which is one of 3 kind of key strands of this first phase of what we're calling Citizen Collective, which is itself an experiment in trying to create a space where people who are doing citizening work in the world can meet one another, learn from one another, get excited by one another, and make this and basically feel as excited as I am. Which is I understand is hard to imagine for most of humanity. I sometimes describe myself as part man, part Labrador. But what's happened since my book came out in March 22 is that I've just heard I go and try and tell people stories, and instead I get told stories. And it makes me believe that there's something like remarkable kind of trying to happen in the world. And so I just thought, rather than everyone kind of contacting me, you all need to speak to each other. And so the spirit of Citizen Collective is really as simple as that, like trying to create a space where we see what it might look like for us to meet one another, and see what we might be able to build and do together. So and in that spirit, I think the entry point really is likely to be these spotlight calls where we hear from and kind of chat to one organization at a time or one initiative and get an understanding of what they're up to in the world. So the plan is that the wonderful Heather, who I've called wonderful several times, and she seems to appreciate it, the wonderful Heather Davies will lead the conversation with her partner Andy leering in the new electric car that they've just picked up, and similarly Ian and Dina will respond and share and be generally wonderful. And I will Tamsin and I are going to keep an eye on the chat, so if there are questions you want to ask or accusations about what age of Labrador I might be that you want to make, then feel free to do so. Someone's already posted that I'm not even just a Labrador, I'm a puppy, so that's fine. But yes, please do ask questions in the chat. We'll feed them in. We might get you to sort of come off mute and say a bit about where your question comes from and that kind of thing. But we'll start off. I think that's all I was going to say. At the end, we'll get a quick word about where we're going from here from Tamsin. But I think otherwise, Heather Davies, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. That's brilliant. I'm so excited about this conversation today. John was kind enough to introduce me to Ian last week, and I think we could have chatted all day, actually, once we started to get into it. So there's loads of topics that we're going to touch on today. But if we don't touch on the things that you really want to hear about, then put your questions and your comments in the chat, and we will try and get to those, because hopefully I will run out of questions at some point. But welcome, Ian and Dina. Thank you so much for being here. I really wanted to kick off with you just telling everybody a little bit about what is Coalville CAN and where did it come from?
My turn, is it? Where did it start? We basically went up a mountain in the countryside and looked out over the area, and then started to think about just how connected and how it all could work together. And we just sat on top of this mountain and sort of dreamed what a connected community, and thinking specifically about Coalville would be. And then it all started from there, really, didn't it?
Yeah. So I think I'd describe it more of a hill than a mountain, managing expectations about our physical fitness. But I think it was a combination of experience and feeling that we wanted to make a difference. And there's all the difference in the world between talking about it and doing it. And I'd been offering advice in the social sector for a few years. So I had a little bit of, it's no good just telling people what they should do. Let's show people how to do things. And that's partly why we're so keen on the sharing and the learning. And one of the key themes for us is every time we share what we do, we probably learn more about how we can do it better and have a greater impact.
Brilliant. That's awesome. And what did the community need, did you think?
Straight away, I think we're probably uncomfortable with that question, because I think when people come into CAN, we never ask what do you need, but what can you contribute? And I think our starting point is what is the capability and the skills and talents already in the community, and how can we work alongside people to release them. And I think that may be a neat summary of what we're trying to do. Encourage people in self-belief that they can make a difference, and by taking action, be good citizens, just to tick the box for John.
And so that actually forms a big part of your ethos, doesn't it? It's about this part about seeing what people can contribute.
Yeah, I think our approach starts with the individual, but sees them as connected, and it goes through from people having the skills, talent, self-confidence, to then feeling connected to their neighbours, and through their neighbours to the wider community. And that for change to happen at community level, that you have to have the self-confidence, the skills, the connections, the time, the patience, the energy. And it's those things together that can start to make change happen. But it's a long project. By now, Dean will probably have chipped in that we have committed the 15 to 20 years, because it takes a long time to make change happen. And one of the challenges is, how long do we have to make change happen before change happens to us?
Yeah,
Do you want to, we got you to draw or we asked you to create a photo, a slide of photos, and then you held up a drawing before. Do you want to?
We totally ignored what you asked, and Dina did her own thing.
Well, that doesn't surprise me hugely.
This isn't my own, well, it is my own thing, but this was created during lockdown, not long after we'd been up that mountain. And I mean, it makes it sound like we dreamt it up. It's happened over many, many years. We've been working in Northwest Leicestershire. I've been at a charity in Northwest Leicestershire, creating a community asset out of a 17th century building that was going to be derelict. There was a primary school in there that were going to move out. People weren't talking to each other. There were governors and trustees, and the building was going to go to rack and ruin. And over 20 years, we raised 2 million quid. We had a primary school, a wedding venue, a bar and a cellar, an alternative provision for young people, and all these things happening in this one space. So I knew that the impossible was possible by doing that project.
And where was that? Sorry.
That's at Sir John Moore Foundation in Appleby Magna. And it was supposedly impossible for that to happen. And that's where my belief comes that it is totally possible to do it in Coalville, and we can do it bigger and better in Coalville, because in that situation, it was a small village, not connected to a bigger community, not like the potential of Coalville is much, much bigger in terms of genuine community ownership and people coming together to do the things that they're passionate about. So it was after doing all of that and then sitting on the mountain, I missed that bit out. And then lockdown sort of appeared, and it was Ian actually that did a talk on cooperatives, and it was in the last bit of this talk where he just happened to mention about a community cooperative. And I've been doing this charity work for 20 odd years, and I've never heard of a community co-op. So he described what they can do and how democratic they are, and they can still have charitable objectives, but they're built on cooperative values and enterprise. And so I thought, these sound pretty amazing. And then he said, well, they can do a share offer to buy buildings. And I'm like, well, how come every town and village hasn't got one? So I thought these were quite new, and I was getting all excited about them. Nearly as excited as John, not quite. But though I did annoy a lot of people on loads of calls that I then went on during lockdown, and I started meeting people that were doing it all over. So I kept going on about, oh, these community co-ops and CBSs, we need to share them. And then I found out there were people all over the country doing amazing stuff. So I don't know whether Jess is on the call, but Jess Steele in Hastings is a great example of setting up a community co-op, taking on buildings for the benefit of local people. Because if we don't have access to the buildings, there's no point in doing anything, because we're always at the beck and call of somebody who owns the space. And so that's what it was about. And yeah, so we decided we were going to set up Coalville CAN, and the only way of proving it is to give at least 15 years. And yeah, I was on some calls then during lockdown with this. It's an international young persons thing. It was amazing. I can't quite remember the name, but some really cool guy from the Netherlands shared this tool, and this is what came out of it. And it's still on the wall at Coalville CAN. So I forget what it's called, but the little tool on the, you basically
Dina, just hold fire. I'm going to unpin Heather and I so everybody can see a bit better.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec. I mean, you will disobey the instruction to create a slide so people can share screens.
I did mean to take a picture of it. Is it the right way around for you? It looks backwards to
Yeah.
me.
No, that's perfect. We've got you.
Cool. So do I keep holding it and speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get a bit of paper. Everybody could try this really quickly if they wanted. If you just get a piece of A4 paper and just imagine it in 3 pieces, 1, 2, and 3, like, side. I can't even think how. If you put it this way, and then you start at this side, and you just draw your dream. What is it you're really aiming for? What does it mean? What does it look like? Is it in words, in pictures? Just start scribbling some ideas down on that third of the page. And I started scribbling about an anchor, and you can see this wasn't my first attempt, by the way. I think we had like a couple of sessions, so the final session I coloured it in, but it was effectively what came from that discussion. So I drew this anchor, I put words in like circular economy, I had loads of smiling faces coming out of a building, lots of grass and things like that. So that was the first part. You just build what it is, dream it, because actually if you don't dream it, it's not going to happen. And then the middle bit is about the journey. So you just start thinking, well, how are you going to get there? And for me, it was about, I just saw it as some sort of mosaic, like a bit of a jigsaw, that I didn't really know what I was building, but lots of pieces would come in from all over, flying in from different angles. And there's also the train track at the top, which you kind of think about the time it might take as well. So in that middle section of your bit of paper, if you're doing it, just start scribbling some ideas. What does it look like? Is it a straight line? Is it a motorway? Is it a flying carpet? Are you talking 2 years? Are you talking 20 years? 100 years? What is it? And then the final part you put in the beginning bit over here, and that's where you think about what have you already got that's helping you to do this? Why are you even doing this? What's your reasons why? Who's doing it with you? What might you need? So it just got you thinking a little bit differently. And then the guy said, you've got to give it a title. So you need a nice big title on your drawing, and then come up with an action for today that's going to help you towards that. So I thought that was quite useful to share.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. So from that, how you'd already heard about the cooperative setup, so then what did you do? Like, how did you then make it start?
There was a couple of false starts where we tried to get other people to do it. So we were thinking of, the people will come along and they will just do it and it will just be great and we will help. But that didn't really work. So we thought the only way that's going to happen is if we do it. So we devoted that time, but also we set up an association. So with those people that wanted to do it, we just started to do it together and had a very simple association. And then we started thinking about spaces, and we must have tried 3 or 4 different spaces. It took a couple of years to find somewhere. We had lots. We had a building in the town centre. We started to have negotiations, and then because of somebody came along and wanted to hire it off them, so we lost that straight away. What other ones did we have?
Pub with the cannabis farm.
Oh yeah, pub with a cannabis farm. Again, the owner there had bought it cheap, so we thought maybe he'll share it, but no, he was just wanted to make extra money on it, so that kind of didn't go anywhere.
GP surgery.
Oh God, yeah, GP surgery. That was an awesome place. We spent ages measuring that up and coming up with ideas, but again, he wanted 350 grand for a building worth 200, and he wasn't prepared to let anybody in.
And it's probably just worth saying the building we're in now, whilst it's 3 stories with lots of space, a little bit like the TARDIS, we started with 1 and a bit rooms, and it was taking the opportunity, and we were offered the space by a charity. So we tend to say yes and then work out how. And I think it's that spotting an opportunity and being willing to be flexible. And if lots of things doesn't work, that's great. You've just learned from it, made new connections. You just have to keep your credibility intact and a bit of bounceability.
And so we knew the charity that owned this building because of a project we'd done in town about local heroes, and Peter Elderfield, who was a local hero from Coalville, that basically set up the biggest housing association in the area because he was passionate about solving homelessness. And then he got fed up with the bureaucracy of that. And he left the housing association with a large endowment and this building and some land. And he then set up what became World Habitat. So World Habitat are the owners of this building. And thanks to COVID, they moved out. They were on the top floor. They rented out the bottom 2 floors and they moved out. And then because their staff were from all over the place, they never came back. But they let us have a play. And having a space to play was really, really important. And it made some people start to think, oh, actually, they've got a place now. Maybe they mean it. Because a lot of people didn't think it was going to happen. You had people say to you,
we were described as a shooting star. We'd arrived with a lot of light and noise, and we were making an entrance, but we wouldn't last. And I think that mix of being rooted in the community to different degrees, and being willing to roll our sleeves up and start doing something whilst having these crazy big ambitions, but then having a physical space and then getting some long-term funding all came together.
We started off with a Kickstart project, so a government scheme, again in the middle of lockdown, which was great. We ended up employing 69 young people. We totally hijacked the system, which was good. And we managed to connect 69 young people into various spaces in the town and things they were passionate about, and that actually gave us, again, a bit more credibility, but also a bit of finance. And then we were supported by the lottery for a year.
I think the Kickstart scheme's really interesting because it was easy to use for big organisations like Tesco's, The Range, those sort of people. But it was quite hard for small independent businesses to connect with it because it was quite bureaucratic because it's from the government. And what we did was we managed the bureaucracy, and then we got to know the young people, and then we found the right connection. So if they wanted to be a security person at a pub, we found a pub that would do it. We went to the local co-op. We got people into cafe and retail, and we were able to manage the if you like, do the bureaucracy so people could get on with making a difference. And I think that's been part of our vision for CAN. We'll help people set up, but we'll walk them through the process and the learning. But then it's their project and they shape it, they direct it, and ultimately they set up on their own.
That's brilliant. Can you tell everyone, because I'm not sure that everyone will know what the CAN of Coalville CAN stands for and why?
Communities and neighbours. It's always interesting because there's that saying, you live your life forward and you tell it back as a story. So there's more sense and order to this in telling it now than they felt at the time of doing it. So I can't remember exactly why we called it CAN, other than this idea of starting with your neighbourhood and connecting neighbourhoods into a community. But it also had the added attraction of the core message and our rather corny line, which is, I can, we can, you.
You got to have the toucan hat on when you say this.
Public humiliation seems to be part of working with Dina. And I think it's also that spirit of everyone can make a difference, everyone can contribute. And our vibe wasn't we're doing it to you or for you, it's we're doing it together. I can, you can, we too can.
You had quite an interesting take on the difference between I can't remember whether it was a volunteer or something and a neighbour, and I just wondered if you'd talk to that, because I thought that was really cool.
So at some point we've turned being good neighbours into being volunteers, and my simple analogy is if I look out at my neighbour who's got a young child at a special school and they're going to school one morning and the car breaks down. If I give them a lift as a neighbour, that's fine, that's a good act. And it's just a dynamic relationship between people in a place. If, however, they ring up a charity or a community organisation and ask, can someone give them a lift? And I get a phone call saying, can you give your neighbour a list? Suddenly I'm a volunteer with a DBS. I have to be managed and coordinated. And it's when has those acts of human interrelationship become part of a bureaucracy and a process and being organised? And it's trying to leverage the space that we have more active neighbours and good neighbours and squeeze out the volunteering because the neighbourliness steps up.
Yeah, I love that. Like you say, taking the bureaucracy out of it and just encouraging the best side of human nature.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's brilliant. You've actually co-opted a lot of different ideas, haven't you? I wondered if you'd share something about your house rules with everybody, like how you run Coalville CAN.
So we're probably a bit magpie-ish in that we look around and find people that we say and doing interesting things, and then we're quite cheeky about it. And that's ranged from the De Bono Foundation through co-ops, Jon's work, but also the great people at Camarados and their idea of a public living room. And we have our own public living room, which is a space that people can come and just sit and be alongside. We really like the 6 rules for interacting with people. And so whilst we do projects, we wanted to create a space where people could come and just be, if you like, a bumping space. So the 6 rules they've got, mix with people who are not like you. If someone is struggling, ask them to help you. It's okay to be a bit rubbish sometimes. Just be alongside people. Don't try to fix each other. Disagree respectfully. And it's good to have fun. And I've not quoted them exactly, but they're the ethos. And from that, it's one of the moments I took. We have a local veteran, Jon, who's active in reform. So his worldview and mine are a little bit not quite aligned. But he said he likes coming into CAN because it's a welcoming, neutral space where he can just be himself and listen to other people and share his views. And I think that I took that as meaning we were getting something right. You can have a Marxist and a Reform member both sat chatting about how to fix a clock. Then you're building those connections that longer term help us make the difference we want to make.
It's such a great story. I love that. I love that so much. What other differences have you seen in the community since Coalville CAN started?
Can I just chip in on this one as well?
Sure.
I'll ask you just to give a quick overview as you answer of like what's actually going on in that building now, because I think it'll like it kind of is mind blowing. And I think like.
Do you want to give a guided tour?
Guided tour, yes. I would normally take the computer and take you around, but we might lose connection, so I won't do that. So on the ground floor, we call it a creative hub. So there's a space when you walk in, Peter's Place, which is the public living room, but it's also filled with the work of 90 odd local makers. And one of the things that we were told by certain people I won't mention is there were no creative people in Coalville and there is no community in Coalville. Can you help us find it? So we're just spurred on by challenges like that. And we've now, you walk into a shop and it's full of things that people make, from ceramics to glass to art to it's just amazing when you walk in. Lots of different gifts, and it's on. I'll share the link because it's an online shop. But also part of it is there's a young enterprise section, because on the first floor we've got a special school that come in and they learn enterprise and life skills, and there's a space for young enterprise. There's also a space for authors, and this came from, again, somebody walking through the door, and in most grant funding bids they would tick a lot of boxes, but we were like, what can you contribute? And this person was an author, and this person had loads of skills, and now this person is running Coalville CAN Community Publishing and is helping people get their books online and published, whether they are sort of national authors or young people wanting to just get their first book out there.
So to answer Jon's question,
this is so there's an author bit, there's the book bit. That's the book bit, and the citizens is in there. Obviously, people can take a copy of that and have a read. And And then you walk through the ground floor, there's a gallery space, a workshop, there's a space that's hired out by a upholsterer, there's a space for people to mend things. So I think we've saved about 2,000 items from the skip. It's a repair bench, and again, that group
Tool
of,
library.
and a tool library. But they're in a like tiny little space, and just trying to help them find a space locally and support them to become their own CIC. They are now officially a new CIC, and they will hopefully find their own space and their own bit of money to help move around. And what else is that? And there's a meeting room that's an accessible space and that people can use. We have the knitter and natters in there, and people use it for counselling. That's because it's a ground floor
Workshop space.
And then the workshop. At the moment, there's a homeschool group doing something to do with microscopes, and earlier on there was a modelling club. And so Jon, who you mentioned earlier, our CIC, a community interest company, so a social business basically. And Jon, who mentioned earlier, who came in, the veteran, he came in a few months ago with a model, and he makes models, and he told us a story about how he had spoken to this guy who had got PTSD, who couldn't connect with his son, and it was really awful. And he showed him this model, and he built a model of a tank, and this guy broke down, and he was like, because this was the exact tank he'd gone to Iraq in. And even the little model of it looked just like him. And anyway, so they started connecting and talking about that. And then through this model, Jon gave him the model, and then he connected with his son. And this then helped them talk to each other about what happened. And then a few months later, Jon met the son. He met somebody in the modelling shop buying a tank. And anyway, it turned out to be the son, and their relationship had, developed and gone from strength to strength. And then as a result of that, Jon and some other veterans did an exhibition in the gallery of their work, and now they've got a modelling club, and people come and do modelling, and there's a whole range of people in the club, and they've now taken over a piece of window and they're advertising their models. Somebody came in to buy one, so we can even sell them. So that's the ground floor, and it's got an ebb and flow about it, and people become coming in for all sorts of things. So in the exhibition space, we had the modelling club, but a few months before we had an international art exhibition of glass, because a local artist does glass, and she's got a collective together, and we had about 20 different artists with amazing glass sculptures and pieces. And they all came to Coalville and came to Coalville CAN. And as a result of them being there, they must have spent about £7,000 in the local economy, and they absolutely loved it. And they actually went to Bristol. This exhibition is on twice, in Coalville and Bristol. So whatever we're trying to do, we kind of, it's not London, Paris, New York. It's London, Paris, Coalville, Bristol, and Coalville. We're just a bit mad. And then the first floor has got a school, an education space, a space for after school clubs, a crafty corner, and a counselling room. And we're just about to set up and help set up Coalville Public Radio. CPR for Coalville. Jingle, jingle. You can hear it now. And so this is, again, it's taken a little while to get to this point. A young girl came forward and wanted to run it. Didn't kind of work at first, but then somebody else has come forward from a local radio station that just closed down, and he's now got 15 presenters that want to cooperatively run a radio station. We've got a little room that's about 1.5 meters square. They've got a little budget, and on Monday they're all meeting about it and setting up a little association, and hopefully that will lead to a FM radio in the future. And then the top floor, which is where we are now, we're in the CAN hub, which is in like there's a domed glass ceiling, and we're in a space in the middle, which is the only space that's left for us to use for our team. And then we've got a large training room, which we hope to get lots of different people using, a couple of offices we rent out, and a couple of spaces for therapists. And we're hoping to provide a affordable space for people to come and do therapy. And part of the idea there is if people are coming in for counselling and therapy, they have to walk through this crazy place, which feels really welcoming and a bit mad, but they'll find something else that they're interested in and bump into someone on the way.
Wow. I'm just smiling from ear to ear, because I can't believe how much stuff you're doing in that space. And also, like, if I go back to the question that I asked earlier about the difference that you're making, I mean, it's just phenomenal, isn't it? You know, you're empowering so many different people based on the things that they care about and the things that they're good at, or the things that they feel that they can contribute. And then and the sort of co-benefit of that is obviously all the connections that people are making, but also the economic benefit that you just mentioned to the local community. You're keeping, you know, that money isn't leaving Coalville and lining the pockets of shareholders left, right and centre. It's actually staying within that community and helping build that community further. So it's just amazing. I mean, I just
that's a key reason why we're so keen on community ownership, because then the community have a say in the use of their assets, and also any rents get recirculated in the local economy. Picking up on something else, I think we're not doing very much. We're, if you like, holding the space in a phrase that seems to be emerging. And it's other people doing it. There's other people are following their passions. We're just giving them a little nudge and support. We couldn't possibly be doing this if it was down to us. It's because lots of people are doing things.
You're very modest. It takes the people to hold the space too. But I think that leads to
Heather, do you mind if I just come in quickly before you go? Because there's a question in the chat that kind of links from there, which is no, sorry for cutting across you. But there's a question in the chat was really about you guys personally and how you've done it. So like, take so much time and energy. Do you guys have day jobs? And did you at the beginning? And how does your sort of personal kind of economic situation hold together, particularly through those beginning phases?
I'll say a little bit. I guess we're lucky in a way that we can survive on not much, partly because of the way we live, but I don't have to earn a massive amount. So a lot of this has been done voluntarily, but then with a little bit of income coming in to cover part of the roles.
Yeah, I do 3 jobs, of which this is one, but I also earn an income from 2 other things. I think the other bit is it's always interesting for transparency in how people have done things. So Dina and me have our social enterprise we're involved with, and that puts seed money into Coalville CAN. And part of our model now is when we set up a new CIC, we look at an interest-free loan or rent-free use of the space to help organisations get going, because one of the challenges is people who are well connected and have the bank of mum and dad and aunt and uncle and things like that can have an aspiration and a start. And a lot of the people we work alongside don't have that background and don't have access to resources. So a key part for us is providing the resources and the self-belief for people who may not otherwise have access to it. And just to say, there's an open invitation here. We'll make you the first cup of tea, but after that, you help yourself. So if anyone's passing, always welcome to pop in.
Oh, definitely. I'll be definitely taking you up on that offer. I wanted to give you space now to tell everybody about the big project that you've got going on in terms of the money that you're raising and the community share offer and everything. How, what are you trying to achieve, and how is that going, and how have you gone about it? Because I think a lot of other organisations might be interested to follow in your footsteps potentially.
I can start and you can carry on, I guess. Yeah, you're the expert on community share offers. So you're a community share offer person.
So the community share offer was quite important from the beginning, because it's a chance for people to directly own the asset, and it's an investment, not a donation. And what with it comes membership. So no matter what the size of investment, you get 1 vote. So whether someone's put in 250 or £25,000, they still get 1 vote. They elect the board and have a say in major decisions. And importantly, what comes with it is an asset lock. So the value of that community asset stays within the community. How are we doing? We're doing okay. We're not quite there. So we're working hard to try and get the final stage. We've had a mix of different people putting money in, and it's been quite touching. There's people on universal credit who've been saving up for a year because they knew this was coming to invest. And the people investing most in terms of a proportion of their income are those that are closest to us. And I think that that is very reassuring that what we're doing is in, connecting with people. So yeah, but all interest, it's all on the website.
I'm going to share a postcard or two. So Coalville, we didn't mention about Coalville. Coalville is the next mining town, but after the mine shut and there was loads of enterprise and business, but Palitoy became the thing. And Palitoy is the world's biggest toy manufacturer. And so Care Bears, Action Man and Star Wars toys were all made in Coalville. So we've created all these little postcards. This one is quite interesting because obviously you've got your stormtroopers, but this is the one we've been taking to festivals with us. So we've been setting up public living rooms in big festivals. So James Dean Events is a local chap who runs these big festivals, Sausage and Cider, Back To, and we got the chance to not only take people to these festivals who might not have been before, but we also got the chance to be the litter and waste management people. So this is where we spent our summer, in bins, basically. And we're getting a sizable donation from James Dean Events, which is brilliant, towards the community co-op. But it's meant that over the summer we've connected with hundreds of people. So Back To Festival, which is coming to Cato's Farm next year. So you can all come to any of these festivals. If you want to have a citizens meetup, we'll arrange a tent with James Dean, and we can even get you all free tickets if you help pick a bit of litter up. Or provide some entertainment. So yeah, we've been sharing these out at the festivals, and we were on the big screen as well. And then what we've been doing is taking these to downtown, because this is what it explains it all. Care Bears were born in Coalville. There's a lovely Action Man one. I'll have to share it with John, and you can share it with everyone. So yeah, just to spread the word, really, which just gives people a chance to have a little bit of a laugh. And yeah, we're getting towards halfway, I think, aren't we?
Sorry, on the share offer.
On the share offer, by doing all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, and I think the festivals was an interesting one because we were invited to provide volunteer litter pickers, and we'd get a donation, and we said, well, we want a marquee as well, and we want extra free tickets, and we want to be able to bring people who wouldn't normally get to festivals, and we don't want to be the anonymous litter pickers. We want to be engaging with people at the festival, offering a space for people to come and chill. And we now have a slight headache in that we have been offered to do this at 20 festivals, and we don't have the capacity for that. So we may set up something new. So CAN festivals may be coming soon.
Festivals, yeah.
Bring it on. That sounds amazing.
A really cool thing that happened at the festivals, but it's gone out my head.
It'll come back.
It'll come back, and I'll share it, because it's just been totally different to spend the whole summer in a bin. And I know what it was. When they do the feedback at festivals, the feedback on the music and the food and the entertainment and the security and the toilets. Guess who won? Litter and waste management.
That's awesome. That's brilliant.
Let it be heard here first. The biggest round of applause of the day came from litter and waste management.
So we're going to be hired next year. We have got a secret weapon. We've got Mitch, the dancing litter picker, who's had 58,000 views on TikTok for his dancing. And he's now being, this is a young man actually that's struggling with his mental health and things like that. And he's now, after spending the summer at festivals with us, he's got offers of work dancing at festivals. So, another little story, we went to one of the schools to do a little open day at their summer fete, and the head teacher said, there's a lad over there that is going to really struggle in the next school with his ADHD and autism. He's been a right pain all year. I've had to exclude him, but I did let him come back for this event. And look at him. And he'd actually set up a DJ tent and was totally focused on DJing for 3 hours non-stop. And so I went over to speak to him and his dad, and they both came to the festival. and spent a whole weekend at this festival. We managed to get him behind the scenes on the stage. He did a set in the car park, and his dad is really big and he helped push loads of bins, which was very helpful as well. And so he had a great time. Another young person who we bumped into it, and we organised an entrepreneurs day just before one of the festivals, and mums and dads and kids sort of came to this day. And one of the young people, his dream was to run DJ nightclubs. He knew exactly what he wanted, and so we talked to him about coming to the festival. He set a little goal of getting to the festival, going behind the scenes and coming along. And anyway, him and his mum also came along. So these two young lads, Jamie and Alfred, are now organising an event in a local working men's club, and they're going to try and raise money to buy some DJ equipment so they can have their own radio show doing their DJing.
If I can go, because we got 5 or 6 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up with a little bit of like what's coming next in Citizen Collective in the future on Citizen Collective. But I guess for me, like when I talk to you guys, and when I came to visit, so some of you might know when the book first came out, I created a page on my website that said invite me and I will come, and these, I think it was Dina was one of the first people who grabbed that and was like, right, you're coming to Coalville then, which, as you can imagine, is in the spirit. But and then I came to see you again relatively recently, but every time I speak to you I have this sense of like it's almost like the image in my mind is a sort of snowball rolling down a hill and just gaining momentum and scale and size and pace as it goes. And I think in a way that's sort of what I want to underline and maybe sort of take you back to for maybe a bit more of a kind of reflection of like it was kind of getting started, right? Like and if people on this call are looking to start something or looking to get going, I guess like a question from me, and Heather might have a last question as well, but like my last question really would like, what would you say to people who are kind of trying to get started, or who have something going but like but it's not, but feel like it's not quite catching, and does that image of a kind of snowball rolling and gaining momentum and pace resonate with you, or would you use a different image?
That's a hard question. I'll let Ian answer.
I would say, unless it's something around saving a building, if it's about making a difference in the community, it's starting something and being prepared to adjust and follow the energy. I think self-care is really important. I think seeing it as a journey and not an end point, but a great believer in following the energy that's there. I much prefer the gardening analogies, that the right plant in the right soil, the right nutrients, and what you may first of all think as a weed may be a fantastic wildflower. You
just made me think of your strawberry plant analogy as well.
I think you need to go on to the strawberry plants.
But the strawberry, I'm just conscious of time. The strawberry plant analogy is just our approach to seeding new things. So we want CAN to be healthy and vibrant, and hence please invest in the share offer. But once we're established, we send a sucker out, and that has to find fertile ground, and then that grows into its own plant and becomes independent from us, but it shares the DNA, and then we allow that plant to grow and thrive. And so it's around not having 10 organizations with 10 people in, not one with 100. So it stays people sized, and you share the energy, you share the weight, you share the risk. And some will fail, and failure is fine. It's not having a go that's the issue.
You have something around, I think we asked you on the call last week about your kind of blueprint for success, but actually you had a much better analogy for it. Do you want to share that with everyone?
Can you remind me what that was?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought this was a regular thing. You talked much more about it being a recipe book, and
yeah,
kind of adding recipes to it, and
yeah. So absolute fundamental belief is every community has loads of talent, skills, and what works in one place doesn't necessarily work everywhere else. So it's not about an exact model, it's about a recipe, and people taking and stealing from others the good ideas and finding what works in their community. So the recipes will have a different taste and a different tweak and a different vibe. So we shouldn't try and replicate, we should try and learn.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you. I think there's questions starting to come through in the chat and things. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to do them all. So what I would suggest is that we move this conversation onto Discord, where Tamsin has set up a brilliant forum for us to interact with you guys, and everyone can ask their questions and sort of carry on the conversation online. I know that's not quite your thing, Dina. Maybe Ian can help us out with that. And then that means that we can give a few minutes just to tell people a little bit about what's coming up on Citizen Collective. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to learn about Coalville CAN, and please do support these guys if you can, and do follow up the conversation on Discord afterwards. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Jon, or Tamsin.
Sorry, my technology is now falling apart at the last minute. Dave, have you got super quick, or do you need, or would you be opening?
Yeah, I just wanted to do a shout out for what's coming next. So alongside, I'm one of the co-stewards of the group, and alongside spotlighting amazing initiatives like Coalville CAN, and there are many more to come, we're also monthly going to be doing a system workshop. And the idea there is show up if you've got stuff that you need to work on, you need to tap other people's minds, experiences, connections with, and together, myself and Tanya, who's here, we're both really experienced facilitators. We're going to run sessions that are light touch and fun, but also hopefully maximally useful for you with a really practical, nitty, gnarly stuff that you just need to get on with. So yeah, just plug for that. We'll be doing them once a month as well as these.
Do you want to just put your hand up, Tanya, so I can just pin you on screen and let you say hello? And Tamsin, do you want to come up as well so we can just close the vibe? Thank you. This is.
So I'm Tamsin while Jon's doing that. So I've put in the chat some links. If you haven't already done so, everybody's come in from different places. There is a link in the chat which we'll send around as well afterwards, but it's just for you guys to go in and register. We've set up a form so that we can try and capture everybody in one place. There is the option to opt out, to not have your details displayed in our members directory, but we think it would be really nice if people are happy to, for us to collate the information and then circulate it amongst ourselves as a kind of little members directory where you say why you're interested in citizening and what you're doing, email address if you want to, your LinkedIn profile, just so that for those people who don't decide to become part of the Discord community, that we can keep in touch. And also you can go back to, if you're looking for somebody who is an expert in, I don't know, climate assemblies and that kind of thing, you can go back to that list. So that link is in the chat. There's also a link in the chat for the events page, so within Luma, that's got our next call, the one that David has just mentioned there, and also our next citizen spotlight call, which is going to be with the Reaction Collective on the 12th of October, I believe, might be the 11th, but it's all in the chat, and we'll remind you all of that. And then the third thing to say, a few people have mentioned, we have set up a Discord community. It's very much a learning journey for all of us, but we've set that up. There is no obligation to have to be part of the Discord community, but for those who want to, we're building it as a place to connect and to chat, to share links, and we're just going to kind of roll with that and see how it works. If you have already registered and you haven't seen the link for that, either drop Jon or myself a message. And if you haven't registered on our little form, once you hit submit, it should give you the link to that Discord server. We're not circulating that around the internet just because we don't want a load of kind of Russian web bots in there. But yeah, let us know if you can't find our server and we will ping you a link to it.
Hooray! Thanks, Tamsin. Tanya, can you just come? Are you able to put the screen on so you can wave at people and say goodbye so I don't have to pin myself again? There she is. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is Tanya, who's going to be hosting the
I'll
workshop.
be hosting the workshops with Dave. As he said, next event is on the 25th. Hope you sign up and see you there.
Wonderful. Thank you all for coming. I hope it's been good. Come on Discord, chat about what you've heard, ask questions, and massive thanks to Dina and Ian. And I think that's a wrap for the first Citizen Spotlight. Hooray!
Yay!
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Great.
Go hang around a second.
Don't worry, folks. I'm going to close the call. So thank you again. See you all.
See you guys.
Nice one, everyone. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Bye.
I'm figuring out how to anyway. It won't let me end the call.
I'm just staying on to watch you struggling to end the call.
All I've got is an option to just leave. I don't know.
Hang
why.
on, it's because you're transcribing, because I just tried to end it and it says you need to end transcription. I've ended my transcription, but you need to end your